But now, without further ado, let's get to the virtual craft chat, a series where we talk with writers a little less about what they wrote and a little more about how they wrote it. So without further ado, I'll pass it over to Teri.
Thank you, Brandon. All right. It is so great. And thank you to the Writer Center for hosting us this evening. It's always a joy to be in conversation with my sister. I get such a big kick out of telling people that, my sister, the horror writer. So to introduce Tracy this evening for this conversation where we will talk about the craft of writing. I will say, here are things you need to know about Tracy. Here's what they say, on the back of the book. What does it say? It says that she's a writer of horror, literary fiction, historical fiction, magical realism. Her work explores themes of racism, sexism, karmic justice, and the power of family and faith. She enjoys disco and is a huge Prince fan and lives and works in Washington, D.C. Here's what I say you should know about her.
Oh
She
no.
is 3 years and 9 months older than me, not 4. She will tell you 4, she lies. 3 years and 9 months. Okay. And that she taught me how to do the leg sweep. Yeah, thanks. You know you did. You know you did. You did it to me every time. Every time. And and she is the and she's the receptacle of all of my favorite what ifs. Wouldn't it be nice if this happened? And she is the person I have designated to sweep my browser history and clear out my computer if I should die abruptly.
I
Please
got you.
welcome Tracy Cross. Tracy.
I got you. I got you. Just burn my computer if anything happens. Don't even try to sweep. Just burn it. I'm a horror writer. You don't want to know what's on here. Just burn it all.
So that's my introduction of you. And with it being this month, you know what? I had questions here, but I really actually wanted to just start with how did you know horror was your genre? And I mean, I look back and I'm like, yeah, we read, Stephen King, we read Clive Barker, we were totally addicted to Twilight Zone and Outer Limits.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of seemed like the writing was on the wall, but when did the writing become super bold and clear?
Do you know when it happened? It was when we watched Mr. Sardonicus.
Oh, yes.
That is when I realized that horror was my jam. And Mr. Sardonicus is a movie from, I want to say, like the mid to late 60s, where um a guy and his wife win the lottery and they leave the ticket in the jacket pocket that the guy wore, and then the father dies. So the father ends up being buried in the jacket with the lottery ticket because the wife's like, oh, we won the lottery, you have to get the ticket out of the jacket. So the husband goes to the grave, and it was the suspense of it because my heart was pounding while I was watching it, but I was so excited and nervous to see what would happen. And when he opens the grave up, like there's this skeleton head in there with the teeth all like
Yeah.
showing, and he gets scared, and his face gets paralyzed in the same way as the skeleton face. So it
Hmm.
wasn't until he went home and his wife was just like, did you get the ticket? I can never count on you for anything. And he's just moaning, uh-huh, uh-huh. He's not saying anything. And then the wife is like, why aren't you talking? Why aren't you saying anything? She's just a total nag of a wife. And when she turns on the light, you see this face, and this man has got this big, huge grin stuck on his face. And I wanted to laugh and cry. I was like hysterical in that moment. I wanted to laugh and cry at the same time because I was like scared when I saw the man's face, but then I thought it was kind of funny that it was stuck in his grin. And I'm like, this is my jam. I love this. I love it so
Hmm.
much. That is the exact precise moment when I realized horror is for me. It is
Okay.
for me.
Now, of the horror that you're writing, and take us to the beginning of this trilogy that you've created. Take us to the beginning of Rootwork and tell us what influenced you and what is fact and what is fiction from familial tales of old.
So Rootwork started with a story from our grandmother when
Mm-hmm.
she was younger and she was living in a parish in Louisiana. And I remember when she told me this story about how I think it was her grandfather died or how her grandfather was shot, and the sheriff
Mm-hmm.
kind of came over
Yes.
and he had this like laissez-faire attitude. I'm not going to say exactly what he said, but he just basically
Mm-hmm.
said something along the lines of,
Mm-hmm.
they were like, well, get the sheriff because the granddad's been shot. And the sheriff comes over and he's just like, all I see is black people killing black people. I really don't care about this. This isn't irrelevant or anything. And that's when she told me that story, something just clicked inside of my head. And I was like, I got to run with this. I got to
Mm-hmm.
take this and I got to run with it and include all of the superstition that we were raised with. So like don't split the pole. If you split the pole, you got to bread and butter, go
Mm-hmm.
back around the pole, or don't sweep over your feet. You got to put salt over
Mm-hmm.
your shoulder. So it was a way to integrate everything that I grew up with, because you have to realize that not everyone grew up with superstitions and like hoodoo things like we did. You look at people and you just like, wait a minute. So, you don't have a problem splitting a pole, or you don't have a problem stepping on a crack on a sidewalk, and it's just like, so I figured this was just be a love letter to my family, to my entire family. I would take elements from my mom's side, elements from my dad's side, and put it all together. Maybe add a little extra horror in there. If you read the first book, you can see the ending obviously is not real, but it was retribution for my grandmother because, when that sheriff came to town, it was just the whole, I could still see the dejection on her face when the sheriff said what he said to them. And she goes, well, I can't remember much. I was told this, but I was only 2 years old. But it still hurt her just the same when she told us the story. So I was
Yeah.
thinking, like, I got to get retribution from my grandma. So that's I don't know if I want to spoil the ending for everybody,
No, don't spoil
or
it. Don't spoil
I I'll just leave it. Just know that retribution was had and my grandmother, was happy with it.
it. So then let me ask you about this. Are there other so that's like the beginning of root work, right? So
Yeah.
what influences a gathering of weapons?
A gathering of weapons, what influenced that the most was the protagonist of Rootwork, Pee Wee. She is on this whole bent where she is going to be the best conjure woman ever. She's like, I'm just going to be the best that there is. So I couldn't think of like how to tell this story in one story, because I wanted to show her growing as a teenager. When you turn 14 or 13, nobody can tell you anything, because at that point you're just like, I know everything in the world and there's nothing that you can tell me. So basically, I wanted to show her gathering her weapons, getting to know hoodoo, getting to know, excuse me, getting to know herself, getting to know like all the people around her, and just gathering up all of her weapons to become the person that she is going to become, that all powerful conjure woman that she thinks that she is, or that she wants to be.
Hmm. So let me ask you another question too before we get to the new work. Pee Wee is the kind of guiding voice for us as readers through these two books. Who did you base Pee Wee on, and what is her not origin story in the text, but origin story in your head?
Pee Wee, I think, is a little bit of everybody, including you. Including you. I think Pee Wee is just, originally she was based on our great aunt Lola.
Mhm.
That's where it started. And then it just kind of branched out. You had to have a little bit of mom's sister, Anne in there. You had to have a little bit of everybody in the family kind of integrated into Pee Wee. So she is a, you could say, an amalgamation of several people. Um, but yeah, that's her in a nutbag, in a nutshell. Like she
Mhm.
is me, a little bit of me. She's a little bit of you. She's a little bit of cocky. She's a little bit of, Lola that was always had something smart to say no matter what. She
Yes.
was Anne that was always quiet but still very observant. She was a little bit of, mom who just was like in the background but watching everything and absorbing it. She's a little bit of dad where it's a little smart mouth coming out every once in a while. She's a little bit of everybody. So that's what I wanted for her. And I did have Pee Wee and her sisters are also based on our great aunts as well. But I wanted to have that one character that just was so sassy McSassy pants that everybody could like you either love her or you hate her, and everybody loves her because she's just that one little smart mouth kid that, everybody knows at some point in their life.
Okay. All right. So tell us a little bit about the third book and what you have going on there.
The third book is going to have Pee Wee. It's called The Legend of Pee Wee Conway.
Mm-hmm.
It's the third book. So that should tell you where we're going with this. It's going to have more of the sisters in there. So we have Betty, who now has a 3-year-old, or I think he'll be about 5 to 7, a little boy, Al. And we
Mm-hmm.
have Patricia Ann, who is living with the mom after the Levy broke in the first book. And
Mm-hmm.
so now she's living with the mom. The mom's got remarried and had some more kids. But, Patricia Ann never got to go and see the world like she wanted to go see it. So we're going to have a little bit of her having a little bit of adventure. We're going to have a little bit of seeing Betty working and living in Kansas City. And then we're going to have Pee Wee just basically coming to the rescue for everybody. Because at some point, Patricia Ann meets someone and he's a smooth talking older man. Like, oh, you want to see the world? I can take you around. I can show you the world. And he takes her to Montana. And they have
Mm-hmm.
a general store in Montana in about 1910. So there's not a whole lot that she can do. And she realizes that this man is not who he says he is. So somehow she gets a letter back to Pee Wee. And she's like, you need to come out here and bring all the hoodoo that you can. That is how book 2 ended. Come out here,
Mm-hmm.
sis, and bring me
Yeah.
all the hoodoo that you got because I got to get away from this guy, which was really, again, part of the experience was based on real life and real family experiences as well.
Yeah, and it's that real life and family experiences that I want to dive into even more because I know, and like other family members may know, like when you say, okay, Betty has a son named Al, it's like, okay, you know what I mean? Like we're like, so you're naming characters after current or past relatives, and in one way, I want to ask for you, what does that tradition do for you? Um, and then so we'll start there. What does that tradition do for you to be able to pull real names into the story?
For me, it's all about legacy. So it's all about leaving a legacy behind and letting my family know that, when I include them, I haven't forgotten about them and I'll never forget about them and sharing them with the rest of the world, I think.
Mhm,
Because it's this is when I'm gone, this book will still be here and these names will still be active. They say as long as your name is on somebody's tongue, you're still alive after you die.
mhm.
So it's all about legacy for me and leaving that legacy of my family behind and sharing, their stories with the rest of the world. That's
Then, now I have to go back and ask one other thing because it's that thing where when you grow up in one way, you don't know that it's different than anybody else. When did you begin to be clued in that the way we grew up with the superstitions we grew up were part of a bigger picture and part of hoodoo?
when I would spend time with my great aunts, when I would spend time with Betty and
Mm,
Lois. And, you know, I would spend time with them and things would happen and they would like do certain things. Like I think mommy swept over my feet one day and she goes, "Oh my God, you have to throw salt over your left shoulder." And I'm like, "Wait, what?"
mhm,
And then you talk to your friends or you go over to your friend's house and you realize your friends aren't throwing, they sweep over your feet and you're like, yo, you're not throwing salt over the shoulder. Like, what are you doing? We're gonna have like bad luck or whatever. And I didn't know what it was called, but I knew that we were growing up in a different way
mm,
with a lot of superstition and a lot of things that a lot of other people hadn't grown up with. And it wasn't
mm,
until I dug down deeper, I want to say maybe in my late 30s or something like that, that I realized this is hoodoo that they're doing. You know, like when mom says her great aunt would go out and put an iron rod in the yard whenever it rained or whenever there was a thunderstorm to divert the lightning from the house. How many
Mhm,
people do you know do that now? You know, how many people know to do that to divert the
mhm,
lightning away? And you realize not everybody knows what hoodoo is or practices hoodoo, because whenever you start talking about hoodoo, people get it confused with voodoo. And you just
mhm,
like clarify that no, it's a totally different thing. It's from like a different time and it's just separated from voodoo.
mhm. And I was gonna say, well, then do you wanna take this opportunity to kinda explain it again for the people in the back?
Well, hoodoo is basically earth magic. It came over with the slaves from Africa, and it was what I'm sorry, yeah, it came over from Africa, and the slaves they used it like against their masters or whatever. It's kind of like capoeira,
Mm,
which is like a secret hidden dance, but it's
mhm,
actually a defensive kind of thing. But hoodoo is basically earth magic. So you use the things that are around you to save yourself or to protect yourself or to protect someone else from something that's bad or ominous. Does that
mm.
sum it up pretty good?
I'd say yes.
Okay.
I say yes. Now, so here I have a question for you now, and that is, can we hear a little bit of the story? You know, right now, A Gathering of Weapons is what's out from the Conjure series, right? And let me see, I'll
Okay.
show you. And then I have one of the original like root works with this.
Oh, yes, you do.
Yes, yes,
Yes. I think
with
there's
this
like
cover.
7 of those left, and I have all 7.
So I would just ask if you could read us a little section from this, or before you actually do that, let me go back and say, so talk a little bit more about A Gathering of Weapons, because this is really a collection of stories.
Correct.
Mhm,
It's her weapons. Each story
mhm,
is about her gathering a new skill or acquiring a new skill to use in her arsenal, if you will, for when she goes to Montana to save her sister. So each story has her learning something new. Like there was a story about her, and this is what's hilarious is that she's only 13, 14 years old and she already has a mortal enemy, you know,
mhm,
which I think is kind of funny. This is why I wrote it in there. But she has a little girl that makes a poppet, which is a doll that is like her, like a voodoo doll. So Pee-wee calls it a poppet, but the other girl calls it a voodoo doll. But it's basically almost the same thing. So she learns how to do this, and then she learns how to do other things too. She even learns magic from an Irish witch,
mhm.
which as long as you keep finding family history, Terry, I'm going to keep integrating it into the books. I mean, that's all there is to it. When you came to me, you said, we got some Irish in us, and there's some Irish on this side, and there it was in Virginia. I'm like, yes, Terry, thank you so much. And let's add it up into the book. So as long as you keep doing that research, I'm going to keep adding it in.
I would just say somebody in Tidewater, Virginia needs to invite us to come read so we can connect to those roots, because that is where I pinpointed on dad's side where the cross name came from. Um, so there are a whole bunch of crosses in Tidewater, Virginia.
Whenever
So
you're ready. But
I
yeah,
know, right? Weekend
anybody
trip.
in Virginia, just bring us down.
Yeah, I really want to get down there and see what was what.
We're well
Um,
behaved. We're good girls.
I know, right? Right. All we
Me-
want are just the dry, rusty papers of history. I
Yeah.
just want to know. I don't, I'm not saying that I have to point fingers at anybody. I just want to know. So all right, that's it. We've learned about this gathering of weapons. And oh, even I know, right before I even ask you to read again, I wanted to talk to you about Sinners. I mean, like, I feel like Sinners just blew up and like had an incredible summer and as well deserved, right? I've seen that movie I don't know how many times now.
I've only
But
seen it once. So please don't like browbeat me for it. I've only seen it one time. And I've had so many people approach me and they said Rootwork prepared me for Sinners. Like
mm,
the hoodoo woman came out and they were like, yo, I know all about hoodoo because of Rootwork. I know what she's doing because of Rootwork, which I'm just like, oh yay, this is great. This is awesome. But
there have been articles about how Gen Z and young Black Christians are returning to their traditional and spiritual roots with hoodoo. And so I find it, why do you think people are doing
I think it's just a way for them to recapture the past and claim something that is actually theirs. I read something today on Reddit where a guy was trying to do a game and he wanted to use elements of hoodoo and voodoo in the game, but he's
Mhm.
white and he wanted to reverse the roles. And he was like, the white guys will be the bad guys and the black guys will be the good guys. And he was like, is this bad? Should I write this? And I wrote, let us tell our stories. These
Mhm.
are our stories to tell. I know your heart is in a good place and you want to do something good, but these are the stories that came from our history. So let us tell it. I think that's one of the reasons why people are reaching back, because we have something that's so discernible to reach back to that we can still use in the now, if that makes any
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah. And I just, and I think about it too. And I'm like, I feel as if hoodoo is distinctly African American, as in,
Yes.
and so there's that element too. It's the blending of an older culture and the remnants of whatever older culture that could be remembered and carried on and blended into something new that had to be created so that Black people could live and survive here. So it's, I really, really appreciate what you're doing with this. And I think it's great that people are deciding to dig into their roots and go back to these spiritual practices. I think there's something to it. How it
But we
connects
have
you.
to quantify that at the beginning of a gathering of weapons, there is a list of Pee
Hmm.
Wee's weapons. We don't want the reader to go out and gather these and think that they're going to be doing hoodoo anytime soon. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's in this book about hoodoo and hoodoo practicing, and just
Hmm.
I'm just saying, if you gather the weapons and get them all together, I'm not going to be liable. You can't say, "Well, Tracy told me." I tried to warn you. I tried to warn you, keep you protected and safe.
Okay. Well, here we go. So let's dive in. So can you set the stage for us, set the scene?
So the story I'm going to be reading from is called White Tent Revival, and it's told by Pee Wee, one of the protagonists from Rootwork. And basically, Lone Wolf is their Aunt Teddy's boyfriend, so to speak. So
Mhm.
his sister is a Native American, and she was captured by, like, she went to go work in a town, and they decided to keep her there and lock her up because she just wasn't cooperating as well as they wanted to. So the section that I'm going to be reading, it deals with that and how Pee-wee discovers the Irish witch that's also locked up in the jail as well.
Mhm.
Okay, let's see. So this is the Irish witch. So I had seen the woman before Lone Wolf's sister pointed to her, hiding there in the back of the cell where I'd seen something move. I just hadn't said anything about her because I thought she was a ghost, judging by the size and the paleness of her. She was the tiniest white woman I had ever seen, and she had the reddest hair that looked like fire. She ran over to the door and reached for Ayana Olathi. That would be Lone Wolf, the Native American guy's sister. You say, me? She pointed to herself. Momak, Momak. Her accent was so heavy and strange, I could hardly understand her. She grabbed a reddish scarf and wrapped it around her shoulders. Her small feet were bare and gnarled like knots in a tree. She didn't bother putting on shoes, most likely because she didn't own any. Together, the five of us ran out of the jailhouse. But before we got far, the white woman grabbed my wrist. She was scrawny but strong, and she smelled like Ma. Fresh baked bread, soap, and sunshine. The smell was intoxicating, and I was bewitched. Momak! She touched my face and caressed my skin. Momak! She then grabbed Running Bear's wrist as well, and dragged us off behind the jailhouse. Running Bear whistled a signal to Lone Wolf, and Lone Wolf responded with a whistle that sounded like three quick whistles, and we were off to this with this very tiny white lady with hair that looked like fire. She dragged us to a field, holding my wrist like my mama when I was in trouble. She kept saying those words, Momak, over and over again, until finally I asked Running Bear if he knew what she was saying. I don't, he said. She's not from here. Then where's she from? I don't know. Are you sure we should be following her? Yeah, I feel it in my soul. Whatever she's saying and wherever she's taking us must be real important. We stopped behind a large barn and next to a locked up door that had that opened to the inside. The woman reached up and pulled a pin from her hair and started fiddling with the lock. I never felt so stupid just standing outside a barn as if waiting to be captured, but before long the woman had picked the lock and opened the door for us to enter. You stay here, I whispered to Running Bear. Keep watch and let Mr. Wolf know if something bad happens to me. Running Bear nodded. Inside the barn, the moon shone down through an opening in the roof, down onto a bale of hay. The woman ran over to the bale and I heard a chain rattle. Is she going to steal a horse? We could use another one. But no, it wasn't a horse. I knew it because I saw a small foot on the floor and it slid behind the bale. The woman kneeled and stretched her arms out. From behind the bale emerged a small black boy wearing a pair of raggedy pants tied around his waist with the rope. He didn't have no shirt, and he had all these dark marks on his arms and back. Some of them was healed, but some of them was raw. He was hobbled by a chain clamped around his ankle, but even with that weight, that pain, he willed himself to move as fast as he could toward the woman. Then he threw his arms around her in a big, tearful hug. I knew then that she was something special to him. Only one person in the whole world can make you forget your pain like that and can heal your wounds with the tears. She was this boy's mama. Momuck! James! Momuck! She covered his head with kisses, and he let her. She reached down and pulled some sort of salve from the folds of her greenish dress and rubbed it on the boy's ankle. Once the ankle bone was lubricated enough, she helped the boy slip his little foot from the chain's hold, and once again he was free. They hugged again. She turned him around and rubbed the salve onto the wounds on his back. He didn't flinch once. I I would have been screaming and hollering like somebody was trying to kill me had I been made to suffer through something like that. But that little boy just braced himself and let his mama rub that salve until she was done. I wanted to cry. I could never be that strong, even with Ma and Pa holding me down and promising that Jesus Himself would take my pain away. I knelt down beside the boy and looked into his small round face. Dried tears streaked his cheeks. Your name James? I asked. Yes'm. This your mama? Yes'm. Her name is Eliza, and she's from a long ways away, far across the ocean, a place called Ireland. Or at least that's what she told me. They took me from her and made me work in a white man's house with some Indian lady. I missed her so much. James wrapped himself around her again. Eliza? I said to the woman. She nodded. She smiled and nodded. Unmute. There
Thank
we
you. Okay, yeah. One of the things I always think about with your writing is dialogue. You managed just to craft dialogue that feels so organic and feels so just real, and so it always like kind of takes me away. Um so I wanted to actually, the funny thing about that is there's a poem I wrote. So as I keep finding our Irish relatives, I keep wanting to go to Ireland. I've been twice, but I want to go back. Somebody needs to bring me back. But here, so I will share a
I'll
poem.
go. I'll go this time. I really want to.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to share a poem with you all from this book of mine, which is my second book of poetry, A More Perfect Union, because it kind of ties into that Irish history. So, a Black woman learns Ireland's history by bus.
Yes.
It took a civil rights museum to lift the skirts of the maiden city of Derry. Here's where I saw her Seamus Heaney tattoo. Belfast, the stamp at the bottom of the Titanic. Here I breathe in an industry defined by ghosts. Then it's back to you, Dublin. How I got sweet on you, I do not know. Blame that ancestor long ago. Let's hope it was consensual. But the words that crawl your streets align with my fault lines, neither of us accustomed to joy. On the road to Limerick, crumbling forts shimmer and shy away like mirages. On the river Shannon, swans play their part near King John's castle. Here, Frederick Douglass honed his pleas for justice. Shivers dart down my bare brown arms. But it's Newgrange where stacked ancient stones call my blood to rise. 2 times a year, the sun flings the season's new song into a quartz cavern. Here, lifetimes were spent, bent, building temples to echo eons. At the entrance, water collects in a giant rock's hollowed hand. A wizened man whispers to me, dip your fingers and touch what ails you. And the
Just love
poem,
to hear you read. I do.
That Newgrange experience, Newgrange is a really, really old structure, older than some of the pyramids. And these structures where they would build something that happens to capture the light on certain days of the year is just amazing to me. And so to visit that area and have that old man, that really happened, where it was like this water was collecting. This old man was like, "No, dip your finger in there and touch the parts that hurt." I was like, "Wow." So like it just, and it felt home. It felt natural.
Oh yeah.
It
We're
felt,
going
yeah, it felt really natural. I was like, this feels right. This feels locked in somehow. So there you go. But the thing that we're connected on even now. And oh, I see some of these great questions in here. I will get to these questions. But you and I, like, you had asked about this poem for your third book.
I
So
did. The goddess of anger.
right. So
Yes. Can
I
we
w-
can you read that for us? Because I'm so excited that we finally can collaborate on something. And I just
mhm.
love the poem itself. And tell us how you were influenced. Who influenced you?
Wait, because we have collaborated on many a thing, Tracy.
Period. Period. We'll
I'm
go
just
there. Send
I'm
me
just
back a
saying.
map.
I mean, like, you were also the person that, we were trying to run away. Anytime we were like, I'm gonna run away. Oh, all the
See,
times.
I told you. Watch me die inside. Just watch me die inside.
I mean, that's what a sibling is supposed to do. But anyway, so you're quite right. But this is a different way. You were collaborating like adults. See, mom and dad, like totally adults. The
Total
goddess of
adult.
anger. And I will tell you, I guess I'll read it and then I'll tell you how it came to be.
Okay.
The goddess of anger. Did he touch you? Did he hit you with jagged words or closed fists? Did he laugh at you? Were you polite even then? Were you lava under the skin? Then let me in. Unsheath the dagger of me. You've tasted pain. Now let me master it. Let me in. I'll use the dust of his bones for tea. I'll rise vengeful and caustic, a florid fury steeped in seething. I'll make his eyes bleed. Let me in. I'll dissect him unflinchingly. A backhand slap, a rake of fingernails. I'll spit my small mercies. I'll dance on him in stilettos, paint my toenails opii red while the blood congeals. Let me be your ignition point, your pitch, the whoosh of hot, sweet breath. I'm all your swallowed heat simmered into flesh. I, too, can lift burdens. Let go of fear of retribution. Let go of decorum and shame. Ride rage until it bucks, then jump on it again. Damn it. Let me in. And
Love
so,
love it.
and that poem is followed by Lola Visits the Underworld, as we both pay
That's
homage to our great Aunt Lola, who
like
taught me.
one poem. I can't use like more than one poem. I can
I know,
only use
I know, I know. Yeah. All right. So here we have some questions.
but you
Uh,
didn't tell me what where did that come from? See, you forgot.
Oh, no, no, I hadn't. I was reading the questions. It came from, I was at the community of writers in California, and I knew that I wanted to write these goddesses for this second book. And so I made it so that for every workshop, I worked on a new goddess poem. It was a goddess of lust, it was a goddess of idolatry, it was all these goddesses. And this one came in the middle of the night. It was like 3:30 at night. And I just heard this voice say, "Let me in, let me in." And it just kept saying, "Let me in, let me in." And I was trying to toss it to her. I was like, "Let me go back." I'm like, "Let me in." And I said, "That's it. What else do I have to do here?" Got up, wrote, looked at the stars, and just wrote that poem. And I heard that voice so clearly. It felt more like channeling than writing. But I just keep saying, I wish she were real. I wish that there was really a goddess of anger for all the women who feel like they can't get angry.
Mm,
Um,
you
yeah,
did.
and it made me think of our great aunts, our the women in our family. So all right,
Surprised you didn't go with See Me Now.
I know, right? Oh my god, oh my gosh, I really did just totally rewatch Dracula.
Yeah.
Why are you playing? Why are you playing?
See Me
Uh,
Now.
All right, all right. So wait. Oh, so we have some great questions. If the series were adapted, would you prefer it as a movie or TV show, animated or live action?
I would prefer it as a TV show because there's so many things that happen that if you do a movie, you wouldn't do it justice because you would have so many parts that would be excluded. So I would say a TV show, preferably during Black History Month, so we don't have to watch any more like slave dramas or something like that.
You're like, no more trauma,
No
no
more
more slave
trauma.
trauma.
Let's just have some celebrating. Let's just get some
Mm,
revenge. Let's just have some like a smart mouth little girl on the screen and doing all the things. So yeah, I would love to have a TV series.
okay. All right. And then what's your writing process as far as outlining the plot for the series? Because
Oh,
that's something too. I often
I'm
talk
a
about like your
pantser.
world building and like, so go.
No, I am a total pantser. I plot nothing. I am a pantser to the core. Um, lately I have been plotting, but
Mhm.
the thing is, it's because the series takes place in like 1889, you have to do so much research to get it right, to get the things
Mhm.
right. So there are parts that you have to plot out. Like when you're thinking about how would they speak, what would they use, what would they wear, things like that. So now I've become more of a plotter. And with the second book, I become a plotter. And the third book, I become a huge plotter. I got like a whole binder full of information because, again, 1910, she can't just jump on a train and go to Kansas City from Kentucky without having to sit in like the black cars in the Jim Crow section. So you got to know what this looks like.
Yeah, yeah. So when we have some other great questions in here too, what's your favorite depiction of magic, witchcraft, in media? So then, oh my gosh, and then they're like, there's so many things I want to ask about that because I'm like, are you watching the new Anne Rice series? And like, we haven't even talked about it yet.
I am going to get to it. I am going to get to. Okay, no, stop for real.
I
I'm
know.
gonna
For
get
okay,
to
all
it.
right. Mhm.
Talamasca, is that the one?
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah, so I'm gonna get to it. Like I've
Okay.
been writing. Come
I know,
on.
no, I haven't started it either. I just wanted to make
Okay.
sure it was on your radar.
Yeah, it's on my radar. I haven't watched it yet. I'm getting to it. I'm still getting the interview with the vampire because Lestat is like the rock star now. So I wanted
Oh,
to see.
is he? Because I
Yeah.
haven't like okay, all right. I have to come back. I watched first season, but I have to come back. He really because that was what I was waiting for. Because
He
you and
was
I, when
throwing
we
out
read that book,
all the secrets. Yes, that is what's now. He is the rock star. So
but I
it's
don't know. Like I would have loved to have seen this in a movie too. Like I would have loved to have seen an actual sequel to the first Interview with the Vampire. But here's the question: if they were to redo it now, because you know Hollywood feels so dry creatively at times. Um, um, who could read? Oh, see, this was not even in a real question, but who would you cast if they redid Interview with a Vampire right now?
you know what? I'm gonna tell you what. I was stuck with Tom Cruise as Lestat.
Really though, remember we were so mad initially because we're
We
like,
were so mad, but he took that role and he just rode it till the wheels came off. And I mean, he was when you look and you're like, that's Tom Cruise. Like that's the whole thing. Like, really? That's Tom Cruise? He was so good in it. But because we all we knew was Top Gun Tom Cruise. We didn't know like Tom Cruise method actor.
yeah,
Now
yeah.
when he did that, he was of course you ask me now and I can't think of anybody except like the dude from oh God, what is that show that you liked where the chick goes back in time?
I knew you were gonna think that. Oh, I got Sam Reed does a good job in the show, and Hugh Jackman might be interesting, or Robert Pattinson. You know what? Robert Pattinson's not. It's so funny. I know he would never do it, right? Because I don't think he'd take another vampire role after Twilight. But that's not a bad suggestion. Oh, girl, don't even play. Sam Hugan from Outlander. Okay, he said,
That's your boy. That's the one.
"That's the one."
Yes, that's your Lestat right there. That's the one.
Yeah, I could totally see that one. Paging him right now. Get that Scottish accent going. And how to make that into a New Orleans accent. Yes. I
Oh,
can see it. I know. I can see it.
people are already lusting over him. So just to have him have that like New Orleans accent with the Lestat and everything,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
people just be
I
fainting.
don't know. I still feel like Taylor Kitsch needs something.
Yes, Lord.
Yeah, right?
After he did the whole Gambit,
I know, right?
I was just like, why is he not getting more work? I mean, Channing Tatum he did a good accent in the Deadpool movie, but
Mhm.
Taylor Kitsch was the one because he had the look, the swagger, just
All of it.
everything. He had it all down. So yeah, we gotta throw him in. We gotta throw him a bone.
All right, so we have a question for you. As a pantser, how do you know when that's it? That's the one. Because sometimes I have too many versions and it's overwhelming.
When
And
I
then somebody says, I'm getting into writing, but what the heck is a pantser? So explain away.
A pantser is someone that just writes on the fly. You just
Mm-hmm.
kind of sit down and you just go, okay, I'm just going to do it. And you just start writing. That's a
Mm-hmm.
pantser. A plotter, you sit down, you come up with the plot, the whole scene is like plotted out, like A, B, C, D, E, and everything is there. My characters are going to be like this. They're going to wear this. This character is going to come into the scene
Mm-hmm.
here. A pantser is just like, let me just sit down and let me just put some words on the paper and see what happens. So, how do I know
Mm-hmm.
that scene works? Is what I do, what a lot of pantsers do, is we let it sit for like
Mm-hmm.
a couple of days, maybe a week or two, and then you go back and you reread it. And when you reread it, you're just like, this works, but I need to change it a little bit because they usually say let it sit until you're done with the whole project and then go back and reread it and then let it sit for like 6 to 8 weeks or something like that. That's the rule, the understood rule. But what I do is I like to go back and reread it like the day or two after I wrote it just to see if it makes sense because
Yeah.
sometimes it doesn't work and sometimes you need to add more, you need to build more. I'm always of the opinion to add more to it so you have more that you can take away as opposed to write less then you have
Mm-hmm.
to add more. So I'm just like, let's just write as much as we can. And I'd rather take stuff away than have to add more to it. It's so hard to add to it, really,
Hmm.
literally.
Okay. I hear you. So we have another question here.
Gary,
who are some of the
talk about Haint.
oh which is funny, like yeah, it's all right. So my first book is this book called Hank, right?
Yay.
And this book came out in 2016, and this is my debut collection of poetry. And Hank is a ghost with like a bone to pick. And it's I tried to make it like Hank blue. So and it's so funny that this is like a hoodoo thing. Like I didn't even realize it.
Total hoodoo thing because in Rootwork they talk about that. They talk
Yeah,
about the houses were painted Haint blue, and I think that it's funny because we kind of did that together, but we didn't know that we were doing it together.
exactly. Exactly. We just were on this kind of theme internally. Um oh, but so here was another question I thought was a great question. I wanted to get it in. And who are you reading? Who would you recommend in terms of horror writers right now?
Oh, I am one for the classics. I am always all about Charles Beaumont and Richard
Hmm.
Matheson, and I mean you know that, Terry. You know
Yeah.
because those are the guys that wrote the best episodes of the Twilight Zone. I even throw a little Shirley Jackson in there because she can get a little Twilight Zone-ish. But if you want to learn craft and you want to learn how to write proper horror, don't go with Stephen King. He's
Mhm,
got so many tropes to me that I just can't get behind the man. But
mhm,
go with Charles Beaumont. Go with Richard Matheson. He wrote, I mean, yeah, some people say, well, Richard Matheson hates women, but you gotta pick out the right ones, like Born of Man and Woman. That's one of the good ones. There
mhm,
was a short story, if you can find it, that does horror and time travel so well, and it's called The Men Who Murdered Muhammad.
mm,
And you have to look it up by the title. I can't remember the author, but it was like any good horror takes place is like was written in the 50s, in my opinion, because they didn't know like what they were doing. They had nobody previous to deal with. The horror before that was like Frankenstein, and that was about it. And then you have
mhm,
Dracula, and then you have like this 1950s because they were using their imaginations and they didn't have any tropes to fall back on. Everything was so pure and new. So Charles Beaumont, Richard Matheson, those are my dudes. I love them so much. There's a guy that wrote a short story called Oranges for Anguish, Blues for Insanity.
yes.
That's another short story that I read.
Like I haven't thought about that book in so long. Who wrote that?
It was in Primeval, Douglas Winter, who I met, and I was like super excited to meet him. I can't remember who wrote the story, but it was in Primeval. You can find it online if you know how to look for it.
David Morrell.
Yes, because he hasn't written hardly anything after that.
Yeah, he's a Canadian writer. He won the Horror Writers Association Best Novella Prize in 1989. And I think for that book. Yeah.
It was
Ooh, I
so
hadn't thought about
great.
that book in so long, dude. That
Yeah.
was a deep pull from the memory banks.
Yeah.
So and someone said, what's the title of the book under Haint on my shelf? It is The Future of Black. And here's the whole title. And I've just put a link to it in the publisher. It is the Future of Black, Afrofuturism, Black comics, and superhero poetry. And so
You in that?
yeah, I'm in there. I wrote an origin story for myself. Because as we would go over to our grandmother's house and our cousin lived there, he had all these comic books, and I would always go in and read the anthology ones where they had all of it compiled about every character and how they came to be. I love the origin stories. I just felt like
total nerds.
But it was just like you go from one moment to being some regular kid to the next moment, some regular kid shooting lasers out your eyes. I mean, that's one heck of a puberty. And it always gave me the feeling like it could be me. That's all I wanted. So that's why I wrote the book.
Yeah, December is when the powers come in. You know that.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's why in there, and the Goddess of Anger is also in there. I was just excited because it's like right after that, it's like a Nikki Giovanni poem, and I was like, see, it's like the universe, as mommy taught me to read to Nikki Giovanni's work. Now here's my poem next to Nikki Giovanni's poem. Made me happy. Small things, people. Small things. But okay. So one person said, how did you limit yourself to 3 books?
I mean, yeah, that's an interesting question because I just decided 3 was the lucky number.
It's the magic number.
Yeah, actually, 3 is the magic number. Actually, there's a 4th book that I'm looking at, where it takes place in the now, and Pee-wee comes back to save her, to get her little brother that her mother had that was from a separate dad. And he's mentioned in Rootwork. He's in the background, and he's mentioned, a couple of times in the Gathering of Weapons with the dad, when the dad comes back in like a spirit form. But I just decided I should be able to tell this story of Pee Wee Conway in 3 books. If I can't do it in 3 books, then God bless it. I didn't want it to go on forever. I just kind of want to go and end and be done with it. She'll appear in like other things. Like she's already appeared in a couple of other little short stories that I've written and had published, but this is the crux of it.
Now, so this is hoodoo, but you've written other horror.
Yes, I have.
I know, because I've been reading your work since you were 14. So
let's not put an age out there. Let's not put numbers to things, Teri.
Aaliyah did sing that age what nothing but a number.
Like, how old are you and how long have you been writing? I've been writing longer than most of you people have been alive.
Look, you don't even when I get to my calf, I don't think any of them were born. I think they were all born in this century, which is just I know. They have to be now that I think about it because they're in college, but whatever. Okay. But yeah, so that was that question. We can't follow. But so what are other stories that you've told, like without giving the story away, but like werewolves, vampires? Like how come we don't see more vampires?
Yeah, I've done some cyberpunk stories, some cyberpunk horror stories. I've done some Twilight Zone-y like stories. There's one that I just wrote called Static, which is based around the TV show Have Gun Will Travel. Your father was just infatuated by that.
Yes, he was. Why? Why would you bring that back and make him even more infatuated with it? Yeah, Dad, if you're watching, I mean that for real. Oh my
God. Paladin, come on. I've listened to the song. And so the other types of horror I've written, I've done some werewolf horror. I've done like animal horror. I did that for an anthology for COVID. Tales of the Lost Volume 2. That's that book.
I always like the skin one. You know the one I'm talking about.
Well, the one that you guys thought I was crazy
Oh,
Uh,
no, I never did.
the one with the Scarface kind of ending.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
A
here
Piece
for it.
of Good Luck. That's what that story.
Yes, A Piece of Good Luck.
Piece of
That's the
Good Luck,
one.
where the guy like took the little tattoo from the.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, stop. Don't say anything.
Okay, I'm not gonna say anything else.
Uh-huh.
But
It's
I
a,
am trying to get all of my short stories together and put them
mhm.
out in an anthology. So
Okay.
you have it. That's one of the things that I'm working on for 2027. That way
Mhm.
you have all of my short stories together, and you can just be baptized by the blood of Tracy.
Well, great to hear.
And then
Well,
you'll like, this girl really has some mental problems.
but we definitely have to do more collaborations in the future.
Definitely.
And this is great. Thank you, Zach Powers. Thank you, Brandon Johnson. Thank you, the Writer Center, for hosting us and
Thank you
giving
so
us
much.
this.
Thank you, everybody that joined and signed in to see us.
Yeah, yeah. Like this was, um, I go back to all the times we stayed up late to watch scary things, and now, this is where it ended. So
Yeah, well, Talking Tina on the Twilight Zone had me crawling into bed with mom and dad when I was 14. So that's like an embarrassing thing that I beat you to.
And
I
I was
remember
like,
that
yes, you
one.
are also the holder of all the nightmares I've had from some of the scary stuff we've seen.
That Talking Tina though, that doll scared the bejesus out of me. I was like, you know what, mom, dad, move over. They're like, you are 14 years old. You need to get out of this bed. I'm like, not tonight. No, no,
Look,
no.
nothing scarier than those walking, ambulating trash cans in the whiz.
Yes. Yeah, that get bigger and bigger.
Yes, the
Oh
trauma.
my God. That is just
Oh, the trauma just comes back. I know, right? The Wiz scared so many people so bad as a kid. I think we're all walking trauma from the Wiz.
but
Nobody
it
wants
was
to hear
such a
it.
great movie though. I mean,
It
Michael
was
Jackson. Michael
awesome,
Jackson, you know.
awesome. Michael Jackson was great, but those trash cans.
Those trash cans.
I'm so sorry that I have to cut this short because I'm having the time of my life. We do have to say goodbye.
Yeah,
Thank everybody so much for coming, and thank you so much for signing in. And we'll see you at another virtual craft chat.
Thank
yes.
Bye.
you.
Weapons.
Be sure to pick up
Woo,
the
more
books.
Yes,
paraphernalia.
buy the book. Buy the
Please
Buy
book.
the
buy the
books
books. Yeah, that would scare me too. I mean, oh gosh, it was just look. Yeah,
and reach out to me on my website if you need anything. TracyCrossOnline.com.
yeah. There you go.
Bye.
Thank you both. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.